What was your third question, sir?
Philadelphia.
Oh, Philadelphia experiment.
And I just remembered the fourth one.
You know, Tesla died January 6, 1943. He died in his bed in the New York hotel. Immediately thereafter, May came in hours later and found out he was dead, and they called the FBI and the police and blah, blah, blah. Well, the point is that Tesla had given annual interviews to New York Times, New York Herald Tribune on his birthday about a new weapon this and a space shield and all kind of talking Star Wars stuff in those days, in the 20s and 30s. And I have some of his private correspondence. He actually offered these defense weapons to the United States, to Canada, to Great Britain, and he wanted like $7 million or something to build the whole goddamn thing, to have a shield against any invading aircraft or rocket or whatever. And everybody thought he was nuts. He was talking to artillery people in the government, literally. They had no idea what this was all about. So when he died, though, we were in the middle of a war, right, 1943. The FBI took all of his documents, and the reason I know this is years later I was asked by his executor, which is his nephew, who was the ambassador, Yugoslav ambassador to Washington, to try to get back the papers from the government of Tesla. And we worked at it for 2 years, and they used me because I could talk the lingo of these idiots in the government. And we got the stuff, and it was all shipped back and put in a museum in Belgrade. But the government, and I know the guy who was in charge, I know the 2 FBI guys who are still alive, believe it or not, and they gave me some of the papers that they stole themselves. Like, oh, I like this paper. So that was saved. Somebody, I know the guy who was the director of the Philadelphia experiment, secret, nobody ever found out who he is. And somebody decided that some of Tesla's technology, in other words, if you had, in those days they had big coils bigger than this thing, all stuck on the side of the ship, hanging like little life jacket things, you know, what do you call them, lifesavers. And Tesla had worked out a method that by putting a magnetic field through these coils that you could neutralize the Earth's magnetic field exactly, and therefore the enemy, at that time the German submarines were magnetic detectors, couldn't locate the ship by magnetic detection, called target invisibility. So the Navy started this experiment in October of 43. In other words, just enough time to steal a document, get a program going. Took an old ship in a Navy yard that already had Gaussian coils, and they, had all the measuring equipment around. Somebody threw the switch to energize the coils, and what happened surprised everybody to this day. The ship suddenly disappeared from its moorings in Philadelphia, showed up and was witnessed in Norfolk, which is about 300 miles south, and then popped back into its original berth, and about 200 men aboard, and they all went cuckoo. Some of them were mentally ill the rest of their lives, hospitalized. I know some of the men who survived and what they experienced. So that's what the Philadelphia experiment was about. Being in the middle of the war, nobody had time to try to figure out what had happened and to repeat the thing. As far as I know, the Navy never, they tried, but they never really mounted a full-scale effort after that to try to find out what really happened with that Philadelphia experiment. So that in a nutshell is, none of this stuff is in the book you read, right?
No.
No. You won't find it.
What do you think of?
Oh, there are, Tesla discovered ways of making objects disappear. This we know. I know a guy who was from DuPont who was in charge of Navy battery construction and testing. And what they found out, they'd have batteries as big as this thing to run for submarines. That's what they did. And they had certain requirements that they had to, when they threw the switch and shorted out the 2 poles of the battery, all the plates and the electrodes and everything had to withstand the surge of 100,000 amperes. That's an awful lot of juice, right? So they would short this thing. It was all set up in a way that nobody could get hurt. And they found out if there was a wrench left in a room or some piece of metal, it would suddenly vanish. Now this is ordinary workers, DC batteries and so on. Now Tesla did the same, and they found out that metal would levitate and a lot of other things, but the main thing was vanishing. Yeah, the man is alive and he's a very reliable witness, top DuPont official.